Okay, today we are diving deep into a story almost all of us grew up with, The Ugly Duckling. And you might be thinking you know it, but stick with me, because it turns out this classic fairy tale might be way more than what we remember.
Right? You know the drill. A little bird hatches, looks totally different, gets made fun of by everyone, and then, bam, grows up to be a stunningly beautiful swan. It's usually sold to us as a lesson about not judging others, a simple glow-up story.
But what if it's not really about becoming beautiful at all? What if this story is actually a secret map, a survival guide for anyone who's ever felt like they're on the outside looking in, like they just don't belong? Now that is an idea worth exploring.
So let's just do a quick refresher of the story to get us all on the same page. It all kicks off when this big, gray, awkward-looking egg somehow winds up in a duck's nest. And from the moment the chick hatches, he's branded as ugly by his own family, just because he doesn't fit their mold.
And this quote right here from psychoanalyst Clarissa Pinkola Estés just nails the entire point. This single idea completely reframes the problem. You see, the issue was never, ever with the duckling himself.
All of his suffering comes down to a fundamental mismatch, the duck's nest. Well, that's a world that demands conformity. It prizes sameness, and it's actually threatened by anything that's different. But the swan? The swan represents something wild, something authentic and untamed. So the duckling wasn't ugly. He was just a wild soul born into a tame world that had no way of understanding him. The bullying and the constant rejection become so unbearable that the duckling finally makes a huge decision. He runs away. And this is where his journey into exile really begins, a long, lonely search for a place where he can finally be accepted. And let me tell you, this journey is absolutely brutal. He gets away from his family only to face even more judgment. At one point, he finds shelter with an old woman, but her cat and hen just look down on him. Why? Because he can't purr or lay eggs. He isn't useful to them. The whole ordeal hits its lowest point in the dead of winter, where he nearly freezes to death, completely alone and trapped.
Okay, now here's where it all starts to click into place, because this is where the story stops being just a story and becomes this incredible psychological map. Estés argues that the duckling's journey isn't just a sad tale, it's a blueprint for anyone who's ever felt like an exile in their own life.
She actually breaks this journey down into 4 key stages. You can think of them as major landmarks on our map: the origin mistake, the adaptation trap, the freezing, and then the big one, the recognition.
So, first up is the origin mistake. And this is so crucial. The point is this: the suffering didn't happen because something was wrong with the duckling. It started simply because he was born into an environment that couldn't possibly nurture his true nature. The problem wasn't him, it was the pond.
Next, we hit the adaptation trap. And oh man, this is something so many of us do when we feel like we don't fit in. We try to change ourselves. The duckling gets criticized for not being a cat or a hen. He's twisting himself into knots, trying to conform, when his entire purpose, his very nature, is something else entirely. He's meant to fly.
And then comes the freezing. That brutal winter where he almost dies. Well, that's the winter of the soul. It's those moments of absolute despair where you feel numb and defeated. But Estés points out something brilliant here. That intense cold is what forces you to move. It's a brutal but necessary training for the spirit. It's hitting rock bottom that finally gives you the push you need to survive.
Which brings us to the most powerful question in this whole thing. The question the duckling is just about to answer for himself. After all that pain, all that trying to change who you are, what if none of it was ever your fault?
And this leads us to the final stage, Zygos, the recognition. Spring comes, and the duckling sees this flock of incredible, majestic swans. He flies towards them, fully expecting them to attack him for being so ugly. But then, he glances down at his reflection in the water and he sees himself. Not some mangled duck, but a swan. It's not magic. He doesn't change. He simply finds his people, his spiritual family, and for the first time ever, he sees who he really is. And that's the ultimate takeaway, isn't it? The revelation that all the hurt, all the rejection, was built on a lie. You weren't a broken version of something else. You were always 100% yourself. So the big question is, how do we actually use this map in our own lives? How do we go out and find our own flock of swans? Let's turn all this insight into a real practical guide. All right, here's your survival guide. Number 1, stop trying to lay eggs if you're a swan. Seriously, embrace what makes you you instead of trying to be useful to people who just don't get it. Number 2, realize that the very thing that makes you ugly in the wrong place is your greatest beauty in the right one. 3, and this is a big one, go find the people who recognize you instantly, not the ones you have to spend your life trying to convince. And last, trust the journey. Even the freezing, miserable parts, they're what give you the strength you need to fly.
You know, the core message here is just so hopeful. Your tribe, your people, your flock of swans, they are out there somewhere. The goal is not to go through the pain of changing yourself into a duck. The goal is to endure the search until you find the place where you belong.
So, I'll leave you with one last, really important question to think about. Just take a look around at your own life, your job, your friendships, your family, and ask yourself, what pond are you swimming in? Is it a place that truly nurtures you? Or is it a place that's asking you to purr when you were born to fly?